Yo, it's Tug from We Make Best, and there's been a lot of confusion and speculation on what exactly tempo means in Flesh and Blood, so in today's video, I'm going to break it all down for you guys. But real quickly, before we get into this video, we just want to thank FABDB for sponsoring us. As many of you already know, we are huge fans of brewing up some spicy decks with unorthodox cards, and that's all thanks to the card database here on FABDB. We use the search feature to easily find every single playable card for a hero, and often look for the underplayed cards and try to see if we can break them. So if you're also a huge fan of brewing up the most jank decks possible, then check out FABDB. But now let's get back to this vid. So to start it all off, we're going to have to first explain where the term tempo originates from. So the term tempo in games originates from chess, where a tempo is seen as a single turn or a move. When a player achieves a desired result in one less move than expected, that player is said to have gained a tempo or is up a move. Whereas if a player takes an additional turn move than necessary, the player is said to have lost a tempo or are down a move. So how does this translate over to Flesh and Blood? Well, using this definition, we must first change the definition of tempo from a single move, like in chess, into a single card, like in Flesh and Blood. By doing this, we can explain tempo as, if a player achieves a desired result in less cards than the opponent, that player is up tempo or up a card. An example of this would be if our opponent were to use 4 cards to deal 12 damage to us, but then on our turn, we used 3 cards to deal the same amount of damage. In this sense, we are up tempo because in that scenario we achieved the same result as our opponent, but we did it with less resources. On the flip side, if a player achieves a desired result in 1 more card than the opponent, that player is now down tempo or down a card. An example of this would be if our opponent attacks us with a snatch for 4 and then we were to just use two blocks to block it out from hand. There we just used 2 cards to their 1, thus putting us down in tempo. So in this sense, tempo equals the speed in which we can achieve our win condition. Now I said it like this because not everyone's win condition is simply hitting the opponent's face until they die. Instead, some decks are racing to set up a board state of items like Dash, Iyslander or Kano, while other decks are playing to fatigue you out like Oldhim and Arakni. So even if my win condition is to hit you till you die and your win condition is to set up an Exodia pistol setup, even though our win conditions differ by a lot, we are both an X amount of turns away from getting to our respective win condition, and we can use this to easily gauge on who's going to get to their win condition first, thus telling us who is ahead on tempo. But now this is where it gets a little bit tricky, because there is actually another form of tempo as well. So we just explained one of the forms of tempo, that being the speed of winning. Now let's talk about the second form of tempo, that being the momentum of the game. Since Flesh and Blood isn't just a competition on who can win faster, there is also the secondary objective of making your opponent win slower, most often achieved with what we call in Flesh and Blood disruption. The simplest way to describe this would be by using Mario Kart as an example. If you're in first place, your objective is to get to the finish line unscathed. Now, the player behind you has the same end goal as you, but their objective is now to disrupt the player in first place using something like a blue shell. So you're trying to win and they're trying to stop you from winning. Then, if they happen to succeed and find themselves in the lead, now they will be trying to win and you will be trying to stop them from winning. These two positions are what makes judging tempo extremely difficult for most people. This is due to the stylistic differences of each and every deck in Flesh and Blood. Take the Oldhim versus Iyslander matchup for example. The Iyslander's objective is to set up 3 Frost Hexes and Ice Eternal the Oldhim for 1,000,000 damage, while the Oldhim's objective is to simply kill the Iyslander before that can happen. Now, in the game, we will see Oldhim taking the initiative or the tempo of the game early by presenting big attacks every turn in order to achieve their objective of killing the Iyslander. This leaves Iyslander to have to play defensively to slow down the Oldhim's objective while she buys time to achieve her objective of setting up Frost Hexes. Hopefully that made sense, because now, say in that same game, the Iyslander eventually gets to set up 2 of her 3 Frost Hexes while Oldhim still hasn't killed her yet, aka finished his objective. Now, the momentum of the game switches, meaning Iyslander has all the tempo here, because now Oldhim must acknowledge that Iyslander is very close to her objective and that he must disrupt her now before being able to continue with his original plan. So just by using this example, we can notice just how many different indicators we need to assess in order to determine who has the tempo of a match. Things like initiative, board state, life totals, card advantage, and so on and so on. All of these indicators must be considered, along with a deep understanding on each and every single hero in order to determine the tempo of any match. and that's why I wanted to make this into a video for anyone that was struggling with this concept. But hopefully this video helped. If you like this video, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. And if you guys want to support us even more, I'll leave a link to our Patreon in the description with a ton of exclusive content on there, just so people who want to support us can, while also getting a little something back in return. But that's it for the video. We outies.